Hi everyone, my name is Alexis Vogler. I am the Graduate Assistant for the Office of Career and Academic Advising. I just wanted to do a quick little video on some resume tips that I can show you guys. So for example, we have a resume right here in front of me, and it is for a student teacher. For example, this is actually someone who is majoring in early childhood education. This is an example of what we would pass out to our student teachers just to help them get their resume going. Okay, so let's start with the contact information. So we have Amanda M. George right here, and as you can tell, her name is bolded and the font is a little bit bigger than the rest of the font on the resume. That just makes her name kind of stand out to the employer, and that way no one misunderstands whose resume they are reading, okay? Now if we move on to the address. Now in this example, we have a street address, a city, state, phone number, and even her personal email, but I'll get to those two in a minute. Let's just stick to the address for right now. Since paper copies of applications and kind of communication is not so used regularly right now, we recommend that, using your street address is actually optional. What you really do want to leave on your resume is your city and state, absolutely. But if you don't want everyone to know your address, you can delete that if you would like. So now that we know that we have to have the city and state, let's move on to a phone number. So our phone number should be a phone that we are absolutely going to be answering if someone is calling us. So it can be a home phone. Most people do use a cell phone because it's just on them all the time nowadays. Another thing with your phone, I would recommend, I think we would recommend in the office, that you have a personalized voicemail. So, for example, you would say, "Hi, you have reached so-and-so, please leave a message after the beep," or whatever you would like to put there. Just making it sound professional and so that the employer knows that they have actually reached the correct person with the phone number provided. Okay, now let's move to our email address. So as you can see, we have just a general Gmail here, and it's not a student, like at student.ysu.edu email. That is because once you graduate from YSU, after 6 months, your email is deactivated. So you just always want to put a personal account. Now, that being said, we want a professional personal account. So as you can see, she has amandageorge01@gmail.com, which is completely okay. It has her name. For example, mine is alexisvogler@gmail.com. We just don't want to use anything that's kind of unprofessional. For example, I love cats@gmail.com. That just might rub the wrong way for the employer. Okay? Now, moving on to an objective statement. If you are running out of room for your resume, the objective statement is optional. You can put it, you may not put it. It is completely up to you. But as you can see on Amanda's objective, she's very specific because she is seeking an early childhood education position, and she's also willing to do extracurricular activities or coach. If you are a student teacher and you're putting an objective, if you know the school district that you're applying to, that might be something that you want to put in here. Seeking an early childhood education at Warren City Schools, something like that. More specific, the better. If you're sending a resume out to a huge population, like multiple resumes at the same time, it might get tedious changing your objective for every single position that you're applying to. So maybe keeping an objective off would be the better option in that situation. Education. Now, this is the only thing that's going to be specific to the student-teacher population because they have to do an OAE and an EdTPA. Now, if your major is not specific to student teaching or education, this is something that you can always delete. And obviously, you wouldn't have a Bachelor of Science in Education, but you could put a Bachelor of Arts and then major psychology, minor sociology. So here, let me just go ahead and do that so you know. Okay. You would put your expected date. So since it's 2020, let's just put 2020. And we want all the dates all the way to the right, so it makes it easier for that employer to kind of scan firsthand. Okay. So this is something that kind of would look really similar to yours if you're not a student teacher. For example, I have my major psychology, my minor sociology, and also a major GPA and regular GPA. So a major GPA is a GPA that's only specific towards your major. So it doesn't have any of those general education grades affected into your GPA. Now, the only way you can actually receive your major GPA is by contacting your advisor. So listing just a cumulative GPA is completely okay. I'm actually going to unbold this. Oops, my spelling is bad. It's okay. Okay, and 3.5 out of 4.0. Another thing we recommend is maybe if your GPA is a 3.4 and higher, definitely listing it. If it's a 3.3 or lower, especially lower than just a regular 3.0, maybe it's just not as relevant to be putting on your resume. Another thing that you can do with this section is if you were on the Dean's List. Just for an example, I'm going to put 8 semesters that you were on that Dean's List. Very, very smart. Again, my spelling is horrible. Or another thing, President's List. Yeah, let's just do 4 semesters. Okay. Especially if you need that room to put everything on here. Some people may do it in awards, or see she has it down here. But if you need that room, you can definitely move it up here. Let's say that you have graduated and you graduated cum laude. Because I think with the 3.5, that's what you would do, was graduate with a cum laude. And I would actually italicize that because that's really a good achievement there. And since I put cum laude, that's implying that you already graduated, so let's stick to my 2019, okay? Now, one thing that you may be noticing is that there are some things that are bolded and some things that are not bolded. So, for example, Bachelor of Arts isn't bolded, but Youngstown State University, Youngstown, Ohio is not bolded. That's because we just want the things to stand out to the employer, since they are really probably only going to scan for about 45 seconds long during that first round of evaluations. Okay, moving on to field experience. Now, this is specific to obviously student teaching because we have a student teacher, the student teaching experience, their preschool practicum, tutoring. So if you're not a student teacher, this may not be relevant to you, but if you do have field experience, so let's say, yes, my major is in psychology and I have been volunteering at a hospital in maybe the psych floor, okay? That's something that would be relevant to my field. So that would be field experience. So then I would say maybe volunteering or aid or whatever my position would be. I would put the hospital. So let's just say it's St. Anne's in Youngstown, Ohio. The semester or the date of when I did that experience, or if I'm still doing it, I would put to current or to present. And then what's most important is my bullet points, which I can get to later in this video. After your field experience, you have your work experience. So this would be a work experience that would obviously not be field experience. If you don't have a field experience section at all, this is probably going to be your most important, just depending on the experience you have and maybe your major, minor, etc. So here she has the child care provider. That's kind of like a fancy way of saying babysitter, right? But any work experience you can list down here. You just want to make sure that you are being consistent. So she has italicized for the title. She has her location, the title of the location, and then the city and state. So you just want to make sure that that is all consistent throughout your resume. She also has all of her dates all the way to the right. This just makes it easier for that employer or anyone that is reading this resume. Another thing you may notice, she has what she like reverse chronological order. So spring 2018 at first, down to spring 2017. So that's how you really want to list things. Whatever you're currently or present doing would be first, and then you would work your way back. Just like the work experience, she's still doing this, so she put that first. If she had other experience, they would be below. Okay. After her work experience, she has professional memberships and awards. If you have any of these, may be relevant to list them. And then we have technology skills. Now, because it's 2020, Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, iPads, smart technologies, which that is probably more specific to student teaching, but everything else here, we're all pretty fluent and proficient in doing Microsoft Word or Excel and so on. So if you really do have a technological skill, for example, if you are maybe a graphic design student and there is a platform that you have used or something like that, that would be relevant to put here. But just for these, for example, I think we could probably implement them into our bullet points for our descriptions. Okay, good segue. Now let's go to bullet points to our descriptions. As you can see, Amanda's bullet points start with an action verb. So that's really what we want to do. What we do want to make sure is that our action verbs match with our date. So with the child care provider, she is still currently doing it. So she will have the present tense action verb. Now, for the tutoring that she did in spring 2017, she is no longer doing that, so then she used past tense action verb. So you just want to make sure that your action verb, your tenses match the time that you were doing that. Okay. So, after our action verb, we usually have a project. So, what did she do in tutoring? Well, she assisted in the classroom with various activities planned by the teacher. Okay. After the project, you could have a result. So, for example, in the student teaching, for the last one, she has administer. So that's her action verb, project, various assessments in subject areas, as well as reading. The result was to determine the progress of each student. That's a pretty basic example, and you can get creative, and the more you practice with the action, project, and result, the better you are. It does take practice, but we call our bullet point the PAR method. For project, action, result, even though it's not kind of in that order, it's action, verb, project, and then result. But if you are very skilled at resume writing, you can more than likely do your result first And then your action and project, really it just depends up to you. Okay, now let me just get to the basics. Most resumes are one-page documents. For example, if you are in higher education, let's say you're going on to graduate school, you're getting your master's or a doctorate degree, you're going to have a lot more information in terms of internship, field work, etc. So it would be relevant to have multiple pages. If you do have multiple pages on your resume, we recommend in the office that you fill the entire second page or the entire third page, however long your resume may be, just fill the entire pages. Also, put page numbers just in case your resume gets lost. You can put George 1, George 2, because that was Amanda's last name here. So just putting page numbers just in case your document may get lost. If you really want to do just a one page, you're just graduating with student teaching, just like Amanda here, she has that one page down. But if she wants to add some more and she's running out of room, a thing that she can do is, I can see she already has done that, is she has a 1/2 by 1/2 inch margin instead of that regular standard inch by inch. It really does save a lot of room for you. You can also have your font down to size 10 or size 11 font. And Amanda here has her font in Times New Roman. So we recommend going away from the Times New Roman font because it's so overly used nowadays. So maybe a font that you could use is something that is definitely readable. So Georgia, Calibri. So you don't want anything that's too scripty, or maybe a Comic Sans, because that's too scripty. It's harder to read. So those are some kind of space savers there. So I hope this video helped you guys out. That's kind of the basics on how to access a resume and how to write one. If you need any help, you can always call us at 330-941-3515. We will be more than willing to help you guys out. If you need a resume template just like this one, you can go onto Handshake, and under the Career Center resources, there is a general template that you can download and use. You just plug in your own information. Please, please, please stay away from the Microsoft Office resume templates, even though they may be easy to enter things like your work experience or your field experience. It's so hard to edit when you try and go back in. And this is a document that you really are going to be editing for the rest of your life. Okay, guys, I hope this helps.